This weapon, it generates debilitating fear in anyone who comes near it.
Welcome back, everyone. Happy Halloween. This will be my full IT Welcome to Derry Episode 2 video. They released it a couple days early because it is the Halloween holiday. If you don't celebrate Halloween wherever you live, just think of it as free candy day. Just whatever you do, I caution you not to take any free candy from any clowns for any reason. It's still pretty early in the season, so we're only just starting to learn a little bit more about some of the different subplots, like the military's secret projects and trying to weaponize Pennywise for the Cold War, what's going on with the new version of the Losers Club, the cycled roster of the Losers Club. Definitely was not expecting them to kill so many people off in that first episode, but they definitely wanted to start off with a bang. Just like episode 1, there were many Stephen King Easter eggs for the wider Stephen King universe of stories, and if you've seen any of the trailers, there are actually more that are going to be showing up crossing over between different stories. Generally, though, the series is based on the interlude chapters from the IT novel and the book that Mike keeps during the movies. So because they had to fill 8 episodes worth of material, they're adding this military subplot with their special projects and them trying to weaponize Pennywise. I think I've figured out what's actually going on with that, so we'll talk about that as we get through that part of the video. Supposedly, they've even soft renewed the show for season 2 because episode 1 performed so good for them. Apparently, it broke a whole bunch of records, so HBO was really happy with the way the series did. The actual title of episode 2 was Thing in the Dark, which is a reference to Pennywise. He is the thing in the dark. Also, the kids start seeing more visions of Pennywise in this episode. Pretty much everybody's starting to experience more and more Pennywise as he's awoken. The cycle has started again during the 1960s era. The cold open starts with Lily having a nightmare, reliving the ending of episode 1 as Pennywise is consuming all the losers except for her and Ronnie. The episode 1 recap confirmed my theory about the turtle charm protecting her from being killed too, because they specifically pointed out her getting the charm. So part of the way that Pennywise works on a psychic level is that your ability to fight him is tied to your imagination and your beliefs, which is why it sometimes is easier for children to fight him, because children have much better imaginations than adults. So the idea is that because Lily believed that the turtle was protecting her, she gave it that power, it became a real thing, and he could not kill her. It actually did protect her life. Also the idea that the turtle is a reference to Maturin, the avatar of God in the Stephen King wider universe, the Dark Tower universe, and he gives Bill advice on how to fight Pennywise during the events of the novel, and that's why there were so many turtle references in the series. There were also more turtle references in this episode too. I'm sure there'll be more this season. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll actually see Maturin on screen. Probably one of the biggest new things in this episode was they debuted the new intro, and it is full of Easter eggs for the major events across Pennywise's timeline. It literally features Pennywise's glowing eyes staring at people at a couple different points in WTF moments in history. This episode is also the first time that we actually see Pennywise's eyes, his yellow glowing eyes staring back at someone, and literal references to Pennywise's name that characters are seeing. So part of the idea is this is the week where they start to learn that his name is Pennywise and what's actually going on. So remember, all these moments in the intro here are based on the 27-year cycle. So like you had the 1960s period, the 1930s period, the 1908 period. There weren't any literal references to the meteorite that crash-landed millions of years ago, bringing him to Earth. But they're like a moment during the intro that you could actually tie to that. First, it starts on the Paul Bunyan statue, which they're building right now in the 1960s, and will eventually terrorize Richie in the future during the movies and the novel. Then, throughout the intro, the camera pulls out, traveling around the town of Derry, notable locations in its history, also jumping through the timeline along the way. So part of the idea is the first bit here is during the 1960s era. We travel past the happy family eating in the field, then the camera pulls out more. You start to see Pennywise's glowing eyes staring back at you at every moment. The sign on the side of the building was a little too blurry to make out, but the camera is traveling along Main Street here. All these newspaper clippings are meant to be chronicling the bad things that have happened, connected to Pennywise across the years, all the disappearing kids. There's the little girl that stares into the drain gutter with Pennywise staring back at her with his yellow eyes. Feels very familiar. R.I.P. Georgie. Do not go near that storm drain. Whatever you lost down there, it's gone. Don't try to get it back. You also see right next to the storm drain the newspaper article about the missing boy, which just reminds you of more Georgie references. Then we see a 1960s version of the Losers Club going swimming at the river, which is a reference to the IT movies when the Losers Club do the same thing. You also notice Pennywise is in octopus form trying to lure the kid into the storm drain with candy. Don't take candy from clowns, like I said earlier in the video. We see a kid being lobotomized at the Juniper Hill Mental Hospital that Lily was forced to go to after her father died and that she was taken back to at the end of this episode. Notice she was adamant, I can't go back there, probably because she saw a lot of people being lobotomized here. A lot of really, really messed up WTF stuff happening. When we see the next Pennywise appearance here with his glowing eyes, this is supposed to be the Well House, which is featured during the series. It's where the losers go to travel to Pennywise's lair. As the camera zooms out more, you see the nuclear bomb explosion destroying everything with a giant mushroom cloud and the red balloon floating up in the mushroom cloud. Because this is the 1960s, all the Cold War fears about Soviet Union, nuclear attacks, huge thing in real life. But part of the idea is that the red balloon is meant to tie this to Pennywise like he is helping proliferate, that like he's making things worse, implying that he's going to be responsible for a theoretical nuclear explosion, like things are just going to go to disaster because of him. This also connects to the Cold War subplot in the secret project that Leroy Hanlon learns about at the end of the episode, so we'll get to that in a second during the video. There's a whole lot to unpack there about the military thinking that it could actually weaponize Pennywise against the Soviets. Good luck with that, we kind of know how that's going to end up. They zoom out to reveal a bunch of kids in the classroom at school watching a projector with the teacher explaining nuclear attacks. Notice one of the kids in the back notices a pair of clown hands, Pennywise hands, operating the projector like he's orchestrating everything. Also meant to be a reference to all the people in both this series and during the original It movies watching projectors with Pennywise messing with them through the projector. Look in the background of the class, you can also see another turtle on a poster. The turtle is everywhere around the school. They pull through that through the bullet hole in the old car. Now we're in the 1930s Pennywise cycle. This is the gangster fight on Main Street that was referenced during the It movies in a lot of the murals on the walls and in the book. And it's also the same car that they dig out of the mud at the end of the episode. The military digs out with the same gangster bodies still dead inside there with wads of cash all around them. Zoom and enhance in the background, you can see Pennywise hanging from the building, meaning that he was responsible for the shooting, this tragedy here. Pretty much any major tragedy that's happened in Derry at any point, even when he was in hibernation, Pennywise was heavily connected to or directly caused himself. Just because Pennywise might be in hibernation at any given point in history doesn't mean that everybody's completely safe from him. Derry basically is Pennywise, so it's just much less powerful when he's in hibernation, but he's still very powerful. Then we actually go back in time to 1908 to the Ironworks explosion on Easter, where you see like the flaming Easter bunny costume flying through the air here. Pennywise was also behind that too. You pull out more through the titles and they show each of the big moments of the town letters on Derry, like chronicling all the terrible things that have happened over the years because of Pennywise. So who doesn't want to travel to Derry for their vacation now? Then they pick up at Ronnie's in the aftermath. Notice as the camera pans down, there's a sign of the pickle factory. There are a lot of pickle references in this episode in general. You will never look at pickles the same way again. Don't you want to go out and buy a whole bunch of pickles after you see the pickle monster at the end of the episode? Lily's father was killed in the pickle factory accident while Pennywise was hibernating, but like I said, I think that he was connected to her death. I'll explain that in a second too. Really the big thing here, though, is that Ronnie is worried that the police are going to blame her father for all the deaths, and they're just looking for an excuse to actually do that, which they find with Lily's help inadvertently by the end of the episode. Like, Lily didn't mean to pin things on Ronnie's father. The police chief just kind of took advantage of her and used that as an excuse. And yes, Chief Bowers here is meant to be the grandfather of Henry Bowers, who will eventually terrorize the losers during the It movies. But also remember, his father also became the chief of police, so it just runs in their family. But there are a lot of Pennywise references in the conversation these two cops have, so the reason why they can't find the bodies from the Capitol Theater is because Pennywise added them to his lair. They're floating in the air like all of his other victims, and one of them is correct when he jokes that maybe the kids were eaten. Pennywise does consume physically some of the kids, but not the entire parts of the kids. Really, his main dish, his main source of sustenance is their fear, which is why he tries to make people so much more afraid. This is the reason why he goes all Freddy Krueger on people, trying to give them these crazy nightmares and hallucinations so that they're more afraid, so that they taste better when he consumes them. But during the episode, these cops, pretty much all the other cops, and most of the other characters that you actually run into are crazy racist. In the context of the series and the It novel, there's an organization called the Main Legion of White Decency, which is basically like the local chapter of the Klan. They're a racist cult that do all kinds of messed up stuff over the timeline, but particularly during the 1960s here. My early assumption, just based on some of the clues here, that some of the characters that we have met are part of that organization. We meet Ronnie's grandmother who lives with them. There's a picture of her mother on the wall from her parents' wedding, which is meant to set up her hallucination, her nightmare that Pennywise gives her later in the episode too, because if you couldn't tell, she was wearing her wedding dress inside the actual nightmare. Then we go to Leroy Hanlon's new house in town that his family is moving into. Notice he's reading the newspaper article about the dead kids. It's still in the aftermath of the incident at the Capitol Theater. We meet his son, Will, who is Mike's father during the It movies and the It novel, and his wife. He lies to her about the attack on the base. They confirm the theory that it was just a test to see if they could trust him with the Special Projects Division. So it's a little more complicated than that. General Shaw said that it was a test of his unique ability in the fact that he no longer has an amygdala, so he can't experience fear, making him almost, not completely, but kind of immune to Pennywise's abilities. You have to remember, though, this doesn't make him completely immune from Pennywise, it just gives him a lot of Pennywise armor. We will get into this later in the video too, like what is he going to do when they actually find Pennywise's body, because that's basically the thing that the military thinks that it's looking for. They just don't know that it's Pennywise's body, they just know that it's a thing that causes a lot of fear, and it got buried a long time ago, meaning millions of years ago because of the meteorite strike. When they go into Will's bedroom, notice the wallpaper is all cowboys and Indians. I think this is a reference to the Native American tribe who has history fighting Pennywise that we see later in the episode, and I think that the shop owner that Charlotte goes to later when she talks about the telescope that she bought from her previously is also connected to that same tribe. When they talk about sextants, telescopes, finding your way to keep from getting lost, this will probably be important for later this season when the kids are fighting Pennywise, the Losers Club 2.0 during the 1960s. All the kids in this episode were just radiating Losers Club vibes, so eventually they will come together. We start learning a ton of details about Mike's father, Will. So apparently he is a super nerd, like very, very traditional Losers Club material. He doesn't like sports. He's very, very scientifically inclined. I think the idea is that he's going to bring the scientific method to their investigations into Pennywise. Like he's going to try and be more scientific about it.
Are you reading that for fun?
No.
Since Pennywise's attack, it looks like there's been a curfew on the town. Marge still obsessed with joining the patty cakes. There's a couple moments here where she tries to throw some people under the bus, and then it winds up backfiring against her. It happens to her again later in the episode too, where it makes it seem like she's going to be doing something crazy involving the patty cakes and Lily and some of the other friends. Basically, Marge doing anything she can to be popular, but she will never be popular. Like no matter what she does, the patty cakes will never accept her. Definitely going to end horribly for all of them, all those patty cake characters. Kinda serves Marge right for being so crappy. Karma comes back around. Ronnie then comes to school, meets up with Lily, and they start talking about what happened with Pennywise, but they don't yet know that it is Pennywise. Not until I think Lily spots the name Pennywise on the cereal boxes later in the episode and sees the glowing eyes. You also notice there's Easter eggs all over their classroom too, like in the back there's a Paul Bunyan poster on the wall. Lily has probably been ignoring Marge, like she says here, because she's been busy figuring out what's going on with Pennywise, but she doesn't know who or what is going on yet, only that she's more preoccupied with what just happened at the Capitol Theater than trying to be popular or make it into the patty cakes. Like, who cares about being popular? There's an angry clown going around killing everybody. We find out that Will is in the same class with them, also mentions Einstein's theory of relativity just to remind you how smart he is, and the teacher kind of seems dumb, a little stupefied by him, which raises a lot of questions about Mike's theory about how his parents died. Because remember, Mike thought that his parents were drug addicts who died in a house fire, but now it sounds like that might come into question because of what they explained during the series. Maybe it was just something connected to Pennywise, and Pennywise was trying to get revenge against his father. He starts to make a new friend, Rich, who is a huge pencil nerd, real Losers Club material coming off of him too. We get a little more on this secret project storyline with Leroy Hanlon sort of putting the pieces together, learning about what happened with Masters and how he falsely confessed to what happened, and then sort of digging all that up. He gets a lot of really racist looks coming from some of the officers too. Most of these people are probably just regular rank and file officers, they're not part of the actual special projects. When we go back to the town, the wider shot here shows you this little Bangor chew gum. It's meant to be a Stephen King Easter egg. He's from Bangor, Maine, and Stephen King has said many times that the town of Derry in the It story, the novel, was meant to be his fictional version of Bangor, Maine. Like it was all modeled after Bangor, Maine. Will's mother, Charlotte, passes the Capitol Theater where Pennywise had just attacked the kids. The pickle truck, more pickles all over this episode. The alleyway she passes is the same one that the little kid runs into after she tries to break up the fight. I also think it's meant to be a reference to Mike in the It movies, also running from a similar experience with the kids coming after him. You remember, she is basically Mike's grandmother. She goes into the butcher shop here. I think it's meant to be another reference to Mike and Leroy during the events of the movies later in the timeline. So Leroy, her husband, Mike's grandfather, runs the slaughterhouse. Obviously, it's a different actor playing Leroy, but it is the same character now in the past. He's a pilot in the past. He was still in the military. Charlotte then sees the boy being attacked, and the reason why the butcher doesn't seem to care about it and nobody's standing around that makes any fuss, like nobody seems to notice, is because of what Pennywise does to the town, the psychic effect he has on the town. Within the city limits of Derry, he basically has nigh God-level control over space-time, all of reality. Mostly on a psychic level, like his powers are mostly psychic, but he actually can manifest stuff physically too. Previously, I used the Scarlet Witch hex reference. Like imagine Pennywise in Derry is his hex, and he can just do anything he wants inside the hex with space-time and reality. Derry is kind of like one of the pens at Mike and Leroy's slaughterhouse, and all the people of Derry are kind of like the lambs, just kind of held there, and he's seasoning them up to eventually eat them. So part of the idea is that he wants them to be as afraid and as chaotic as possible.
You can be out here like us, or you can be in there, like them.
Part of the way that manifests in people being super racist, super aggressive, people getting into fights all over the place, being super violent. Also, people seemingly not caring like a normal nice person would. One of the better examples of this phenomenon is during the It movies when Ben is getting carved up by the bullies. There's a car that drives by him and they look at him like dead in the eye, they see what's happening and they do nothing to act like they care and they just continue driving on. It's like this all over Derry. And it's all because Pennywise makes them do that. You also notice when the boys run off and then Charlotte starts to notice everybody else, nobody around them thinks that it's weird. They think that she's weird for trying to raise an issue about it. When she refers to them as dogs looking at fresh meat to tear apart, that's all Pennywise vibes. When they're at dinner, there's this weird syncopation when they start saying the same thing together. I think that's just because they've had the very same conversation many times before, so they've actually learned it by heart, like it's automatic at this point. Ronnie then has another Pennywise-induced event, not the first time that she's actually experienced Pennywise, but it's the first time that she actually sees the glowing eyes in like actual Pennywise. What's going on here is that he's playing on the fear that she thinks that she killed her mother because her mother died in childbirth. Also remember there's the wedding photo on the wall, like one of the few photos of Ronnie's mother they have around the house. Inside the nightmare here that Pennywise is giving her, she's actually wearing the wedding dress. She pushes her way out of the placenta, sees her mother's face, and remember, Pennywise is making this all real too. This isn't just happening inside Ronnie's head, this is real, so she actually does have that goo all over her. Then her mother tries to consume her. We get our first look at Pennywise's yellow glowing eyes inside the mouth, so he has changed forms again since coming out as a mutant baby in episode 1. Like they're slowly ramping up to like full-on broad daylight, Pennywise running around smiling at them in clown form. We get a little more of Dick Hallorann. Reggie and his squad may hang out at the tavern just having fun, talking about racism on the base. He also lets them know that he's connected to the secret division and also gets them out of a little spot of trouble in the episode too. This is the first time that we meet the police chief, and two of the other townspeople seem very, very racist and are basically pushing him to arrest Ronnie's father. My assumption based on the way that they threaten to take away his job, like, we'll vote you out of office if you don't do what we want, is that he's not part of that same racist cult that they might be part of. You also notice that Dick Hallorann gives him a very ominous look, like he sees some dead people around the police chief, like something bad is going to happen to him soon. You have to remember the whole reason why Dick Hallorann is here, why the military brought him here, is because of his shining ability, so they know that he has psychic abilities, so they're kind of leaning into that, and this is before the events of the Shining movie take place. It's like much earlier in his timeline. Things at the bar get super racist, so they dip real quick, and the place that he takes them to is probably meant to be the black spot. Like he said, I know a place with some moonshine, that's probably the black spot, which is a very notable location in the It novel and in the movies. They go back to the base and he gets them through the gate because of his special privileges in the special division that he's part of, which they transition to right after this to show you what actually they're doing as part of this special division. He's using his psychic ability, his shining ability, to locate different artifacts that are tied to Pennywise across the timeline, and the one they're looking for here is the 1930s car that's featured in that opening scene that the gangsters got in the fight in. You also notice that the Native American tribe is watching them from afar, looking real upset because they're also very wary of Pennywise returning. They're one of the few groups that actually knows what's really going on. Like, oh, the thing that you're looking for that you think is a weapon that you can use against the Soviets in the Cold War is actually Pennywise. You're not going to be able to use that as a weapon. It's only going to kill you.
You're building a weapon? Close. We're looking for one.
Back at school, Lily winds up eating with Ronnie to ignore Marge. They talk about her Pennywise nightmare. Marge then throws her under the bus promptly like earlier today. It also backfires again. Like I said, the patty cakes will probably never accept her for their own, and things will end horribly for all of them anyway because of what Pennywise is doing. Lily mentions to Ronnie how terrible Juniper Hill was in not wanting to go back, probably because they might try to lobotomize her, like something real bad is going to happen there. Out in the hallway, we find out that Will and his new pencil friend, Rich, have both been exiled or exiled themselves to eat lunch in the hallway because they just don't fit with everybody else. Also kind of seems like Rich is in love with Marge. We'll see if that goes anywhere. You notice in the background, he's got the Hercules poster from the Steve Reeves version of Hercules, and I think the baseball player is Minnie Mioso, who was the first Afro-Latino professional baseball player. Somebody throws a smoke bomb down the hallway and he runs into his teacher. They both get detention, he and Ronnie, so they wind up bonding over being thrown in detention together. On the blackboard, there are a couple Easter eggs here too. When it says Mike loves Christine, I feel like that's a Stephen King Easter egg to the Christine novel. Mike is Mike Cunningham, Christine being Christine the car. There's yet another drawing of Bert the Turtle, another Maturin Cosmic Turtle reference. Most of their talk here is just them radiating a lot of Losers Club vibes, so I think part of the idea is that that group will slowly come together by the events of episode 3. Then we find out that Lily is being taken to the police office because she's going to tell the truth, or try to tell the truth about what happened with Pennywise, and she was definitely right on the money. The minute that she tried to tell the truth, they threatened to send her back to Juniper Hill. She basically gets tricked into giving the chief an excuse to arrest Ronnie's father, even though she didn't say it in so many words. He has enough reasonable doubt to claim that he's investigating things and just drums up an excuse to arrest him. When Ronnie's grandmother mentions feeding on other people's pain, that's basically what Pennywise does. Like, that's his whole thing, psychic pain. Leroy then goes full Sherlock, trying to investigate Masters to prove his theory that he didn't actually commit the attack with the Soviet gun. Definitely giving a lot of Henry Bowers vibes here too. Like, Masters, probably part of that racist cult, but we'll probably learn more about that in future episodes. Basically winds up proving the point because he can't load the Soviet gun to save his life. When he questions General Shaw about it, he reveals the truth about how it was a test to see if his ability actually works the way that he thought that it works, that he has no amygdala, so can't experience fear, and is thus immune or partially immune to Pennywise's abilities. You have to remember, though, the military does not know that it's actually Pennywise. They just know that it's a thing that radiates fear. So the thing that he talks about, I believe, is meant to be Pennywise's physical body when it's in a hibernation state, or like a giant chunk of the meteorite that brought him here. Basically, the idea is that General Shaw had been looking for somebody who had abilities similar to Leroy's, and then just spotted his file and then tracked him down and had him transferred to the base, and then performed that test to make sure that he did not experience fear, and wound up passing with flying colors. Lily then goes grocery shopping. Notice the bag boy, even before Pennywise comes for, starts to seem very wary of her. Like, things in general, like, you just notice people in the background, the way they react to different people. Sometimes it's Pennywise messing with people, and sometimes it's people just genuinely not trusting other people. You notice, though, his attack on her basically begins the minute that she passes the pickle jars. We start to see the shelves reorganizing themselves, trapping her in the maze, pushing her around at will like a little rat. Also, the people jumping in and around, whispering to her. This is Pennywise in different forms. Remember, he can change his form and teleport at will inside Derry. As she sees Maddie, Susie, all the dead kids, all her former friends on the cereal boxes. But here's the other big thing too. It says Pennywise, the name, written on it with great taste because Pennywise eats the kids. I also believe this is the first time we've seen the name Pennywise written on something that one of the characters is seeing. So when she starts talking about this event to the other kids, they'll all probably start realizing that its name is Pennywise. Pennywise is the thing behind all the crazy visions that we keep seeing. She gets trapped in the pickles and sees her father's face all mangled, staring back at her. The voice "Kiss for Daddy" is also Bill Skarsgard doing Pennywise voice. So if you didn't realize, he actually came back for the series, so he's actually been doing a little bit of voiceover work, but we're only in the second episode, so Pennywise hasn't spoken a whole lot yet. Starts to get real creepy here, and you will definitely never look at pickles the same way again after this. Give the pickle a kiss. Shaw then takes Leroy inside the secret hangar. You start to see them exploring all the artifacts that they've been collecting. These are all things that are tied to different encounters connected to Pennywise. So like it's Pennywise adjacent accidents that happened, what they're examining here. Shaw mentions the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's the Soviet secret plan to put missiles near the United States. They also use that as a big twist during the X-Men First Class movie too. Shaw claims their secret project is aimed at preventing something like that, another Cuban Missile Crisis, which he calls Operation Precept, determined to win the Cold War before any nuclear missiles are fired. Oh, how wrong it is probably going to go for them. You notice he has maps of all the dig sites around Derry and explains how they're trying to dig up a weapon. The thing that was buried in Derry a long time ago was literally Pennywise. The meteor came to Earth millions of years ago, and the reason why he thinks Hanlon is the perfect person for the job is because he can't feel fear. So remember, what I think they're talking about is Pennywise in his hibernation state, like very prone state. Once he actually becomes very active again, no way anybody's going to be able to get their hands on him. So really what they're looking for is locating Pennywise's lair, where his actual body would be. Then he mentions the beacons surrounding Pennywise as a way to triangulate his actual location. So this is like the car from the 1930s shootout. That's one of the beacons, radiating a whole bunch of psychic energy, the aftermath of Pennywise's attack, that Dick Hallorann, who has the Shining, can actually sense with his psychic ability. So basically the rest of the series is them going around searching for these different artifacts tied to Pennywise to actually try and locate his physical body, which would be in his lair, which is underneath the well house. You have to remember, though, they can't trample on the events of the movies, so we will see what happens when they actually find his physical body. They can harm Pennywise, but they can't perma-kill him. That's the idea. Like, remember the Losers Club when they were kids in the first It movie? They were able to really hurt him, so he had to go back into hibernation for another 27 years. That's about the best that anybody during this series is going to be able to do. As Leroy learns about all this, Dick Hallorann gives him a knowing wink like, yeah, we're going to be working together for a while. And they go to watch the 1930s gangster car being dug out of the mud with all the bodies still in there with a whole bunch of wads of cash, like they just got rolled into the mud right after that happened. While we also see Lily being taken back to Juniper Hill. The reason why everybody here looks so creepy is just because of Pennywise's overriding influence, just driving everybody darker and more chaotic. If you couldn't tell, the ending song over the credits is Hush Hush Hush, Here Comes the Boogeyman, which is just another reference to Pennywise coming. There were many Easter eggs and references to the wider Stephen King universe, not just the It novels or the movies, so if you spotted any that I didn't talk about during the video, just write them below in the comments. Because I'll be doing episode videos for the entire series, my next big video will be for my episode 3 trailer video, and then my full episode 3 video will post next week after they release it, but it'll be back to Sunday nights with the next episode. So the really big reminder is that episode 3 won't be until Sunday, November 9th. Everybody click here for that episode 3 video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that, and click here for all my other It Welcome to Derry episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.